Hi there, it's Stacy Essner. I'm here for Coffee Talk. I'm waiting for Ellen McCue to join me so we can chat everything real estate in her market, mine, and everything else that we decide to chat about. So if you have anything that you would like us to talk about, feel free to share. So just waiting for her to join us. So I hope that everyone is well and ready for Passover if you celebrate that, which starts today, or you're getting ready for Easter this weekend. So I hope you're surviving the weather. It's been horrible here in Chicago with all the thunderstorms. We had some hail last night, today. It's been really bad, so I don't know how far east it's gotten yet. So I know the weather's been crazy the last couple of weeks. So here she comes. Hopefully this is going to work. I don't know what's going on with it today. All right, Ellen. Hopefully you're on your phone so you can join us. It's not letting me accept you. So what's everyone doing for the holiday weekend? Anyone have any big plans? We're not having a formal Seder this year. We're just cooking, having dinner. So, oh, it says you're unable to join, Ellen. I'm hoping you are on your phone.
Hi, how are
Oh, there
you?
you are. Hi there.
I'm good. Good. I don't
Good.
know what
How are
happened that
you?
first time, but technology doesn't always work with us.
It it does not. It does not. So, what
Everything's
is going on? How
good.
are
I heard you
things?
mention Passover, and I just asked a friend to have dinner tonight, and she said, "It's Passover. Aren't you doing anything?" And I said, "No, my boys have far away games today. One's a golfer and one plays lacrosse, and they're like 2 hours away. So it'll be late by the time they get home, but there's always tomorrow."
Right? Yeah, it's so interesting. I was talking to one of my friends, and she said, one of her kids is working, one of her kids has volleyball practice, so they're going to be going to their Seder late this evening. And, because families now, like her kids are older, where other
Right.
family members have younger kids, so they're starting the Seder early. And it's so hard because with school and work and
Yeah.
young kids and older kids, it's just
Yeah,
so hard
I
to
know. I
manage.
don't know. Times have changed. I feel like when I was young, this took priority over everything. No, no.
Right? I know. I know, but because it's like during the week, as opposed to, where you have Easter, which is on
Yeah, but
Sunday,
it's such
but
a
the
nice
Jewish
festive time
holidays,
of year.
they,
So it's exciting that it's a sign of spring, even though it
yeah.
doesn't look like it today. I don't know what it's like in Chicago, but Connecticut's kind of dreary today.
Oh my God,
Oh
we
no.
had horrible rain for like the last 2 days, and then now it's 70, but it's going to be in the 50s, and then
Yeah,
it'll
it's
be
a roller
warmer this
coaster. That's what
weekend.
spring
So,
is.
exactly. Yes, yes. So, how are things though in the market there? People
Yeah,
wanted us
yeah.
to talk about
Well,
real
things are
estate.
definitely heating up in Connecticut. We've obviously had an inventory drought like most places around the country in some of these higher end markets, and maybe even not so high end, but it seems to be opening up a little bit. I think people are coming to terms with interest rates
Uh-huh.
kind of settling in around where they are, and not much is going to change. So people are ready to move. So
Right.
that's exciting to wake up and see new inventory every day. How about you guys?
Right. And it's so interesting. Some things will sit on the market and some things will go multiple offers like the first weekend that it's on the market. I think it just really depends on how it's priced
Correct.
and where it's located. In some markets, there's price reductions, so buyers are able to negotiate things, whereas in other markets, you're going to have to pay over asking or other, parts of the city. So I think it really just depends on where you're looking because I have buyers in the city
Right.
and I
Yeah.
have buyers
You
in the
get that whole
suburbs.
range.
So,
It's like from to the next. It's
yeah,
you could be showing completely
yeah,
different types of homes, and we have that here too because we have cities as well. Uh, but in more of our like suburban
right,
settings, is really where the inventory was the tightest, and it seems to be starting to flow on. And it's funny because people call, will reference a spring market, and that kind of term has kind of gone out the window, I think, since the pandemic. It's like, our seasons are non-existent. It doesn't matter. The summer will be really busy potentially, I think, because we're getting a later start with inventory, that I think things will just kind of continue to flow, and there's not really a good or bad time to be putting your house on the market because the buyer demand is still so great. So that's nice.
right, right, right. And so, do you have a lot of people that are coming from New York
Yeah, yeah, we
City to
do.
your area?
And that was always the case, but obviously with the pandemic and everyone fleeing the cities, there's still a lot of people that just kind of had their mind set on coming out to the suburbs and weren't able to find homes because there was just not enough inventory to meet the demand. So, maybe some of those young professionals or young families came out and they're renting or they're, in just temporary housing looking for something to buy. So it is definitely still a seller's market. In fact, I can tell a personal story that is actually playing out kind of as we speak, or it just sort of came to fruition, not in the way that I wanted it to. But I've shared with you, I think, Stacy, that we sold our home last summer, kind of trying to capitalize on the high
Right.
market, and we're in a rental, so we're like in a good position to make a move. And we haven't bid on anything. It's not been anything that's really piqued our interest until this week. And we went in with a strong offer on basically the first 24 hours the house was on, and it was between us and another buyer, and we didn't get it. I just found out before I got on the call with you.
Oh, I'm so
And I did all the
sorry.
right things and, all the things I would advise other clients to do. But at the end of the day, only one buyer can get the house and there will be others, and it wasn't meant to be. But, it's interesting when these things play out personally. Having had the opportunity to list my home and go through that whole experience, it's been really helpful to, help guide other clients going through the same thing.
So, what do you do because you're going through it right now? What kind of advice do you give to buyers? Because you were just in a multiple offer
Right.
situation and you did not
I
win the
mean,
house. So what are you going to do guiding buyers
yeah, it's
moving
interesting.
forward?
Of course, every situation is different, every scenario, and when
Of
your buyer
course.
comes into the home, and just all the all the terms are different for every buyer. But I think my biggest and best piece of advice is to not do anything drastic, but also do what you feel you can do and that you're comfortable with, but that you won't be disappointed if you don't get the house. So at this point, like, we definitely put our best foot forward. We did everything we were comfortable with, and it just, you kind of have to take the personal piece out of it and know that every seller has different motivations, and the reasons that they're selling their home we can't ever quite understand, even if there's some good transparency between you and the listing agent. I really try to get as much information as I can so we can make informed decisions. And you know I'll never
Right.
know why we didn't get it. They happen to be the first offer in, and sometimes that's motivating for a seller that they want to do the right thing and go with the first offer if the offers are relatively equal. But I think you kind of just, my advice is always like, go with your gut, you know, pay what you think you're comfortable paying and that you won't be, I mean, look, I'm disappointed, but there will be other homes and we weren't willing to pay any more. And that's kind of how it shakes out. And, it's not a perfect science and it can be disappointing and frustrating, but there will be other homes. Everybody kind of finds their place eventually. So, um, I hate
Right.
to even be putting this out there in public to say like, oh, I didn't win the bid because, I should want to say, oh, I win every bid, but that's just not realistic. I gathered as much information as I possibly could to inform my buyer, which in this case I'll say was my husband. And, we put our best foot forward. We did what we were comfortable with. And in the end, it didn't work out, but that's okay.
Right. Well, one of the things that I always say to buyers is, especially when we know there's multiple offers, what are you willing to what are you
Right.
willing to lose the home for? If it's going above the asking price, if it's waiving any of the contingencies, like, an appraisal, what an appraisal waiver, like, what is it that you are willing to do, and what will you feel most comfortable putting your foot forward? And if you do all of that, what are you willing
Right.
to lose the
Yep.
house for? And so I think that that's how I approach it. And if they say, well, this is it, then, and they're okay with it, then that's okay. But if it's, oh, well, if we would have gone in, I had one client say, well, I would have gone in $10,000 more. I'm
Yeah.
like, well, we talked about it.
And sometimes they'll sleep on it and they come back
So,
in the morning and
yeah,
it's too late. So it's just, I think buyers need to be aware
right,
that it's a competitive market and you have to be educated going into it. And that's what we're here for, to provide all the information, all the comps. And sometimes the comps seem to go out the window and that can be frustrating. But, you kind of have to
right.
trust your agent. And, I try to be as informed as possible. And, my husband would say, well, my agent will provide me with all the, comps and, relative value and this and that. But this,
In a seller's
yeah,
market, that doesn't mean anything because it's not necessarily what the comps show. It's what a buyer's willing to pay for it. And that's what
exactly.
I've been trying to tell buyers when
Yeah,
there's lots of
it
offers
doesn't
on the
always make sense
table.
to a buyer or even to their agent, at the end of the day. So,
No, right,
yeah, it'll be
exactly.
interesting to see when things kind of settle down here. I don't see it happening just yet, but you know, again, just having more inventory that can only help the situation is just to, continue trying to bring more inventory to customers. Yeah.
Of course. So, what are some of the things that you're doing to try and talk to people about yes, sell? If you're thinking about it, get off the fence. I mean, you did it and you're renting now. Did that make you nervous? I mean, are there rentals for those people that
Yeah.
aren't sure
I
where they're going to
mean,
go? Because I know here, even the
yeah, our
rental
rental
market is
market is
crazy.
too, but it's never been a super strong rental market. In particular in Darien, when we were looking there wasn't anything that suited our needs, so we ended up in a neighboring town in Stamford, and it's been great. I had to turn over a few rocks, and um, it always seems to work out. It just does. Again, being connected to the right person. I was calling agents looking at leases that had rented a year prior. Is this lease coming up? Are they renewing? Is it going to be available in the next couple of months? And that's sort of how I found this house. It actually wasn't a house that I called about. It was another listing. And she said, well, I have this one coming on though. And would you be interested in that? And I said, oh, sure. Let me take a look. So it's all about connecting with the right people. I actually had another house that I listed right after mine sold because they were like, oh my God, you just did it and we should do it. I know we should do it. And so they did. And they also were like panicking, where are we going? And, I connected them with an agent in the town that they were looking to buy, and they didn't find anything to buy right off the bat. So they ended up renting as well. And I actually connected with her today, and she's been very happy in her rental. And it's honestly, it's like, you're in a bit of a power position to make good, strong offers, knowing you connect quickly if you're in a rental. Um, but yeah, our rental market is not as strong as it used to be, but or not strong as it used to be. It just kind of has never been. But there are things. There are definitely things out there, and um, it's a rental. In most cases, it's not a permanent situation. So if you're just buying time in between, looking for the right home so that you can really make a well-informed decision when you go to make this major purchase, it feels good. Um, I know it, and I know that's how we feel about it. So it's been worth it for us, and it's good to be able to advise people based on your actual experience, and it's working out for other clients as well. But I still do get requests for rentals, and starting early with the education. I had a call yesterday. It was a referral from someone in the city, and their clients are looking to move to the Greenwich area. They're probably going to rent for a year before they buy. Their kids are coming out to go to school, and um, they're not looking to rent until August. And as you and I know, Stacy, like what you see today isn't going to be available in August. But giving
Right.
yourself a couple of months lead time, and then being able to, be in a position come June to just be educated when those things come on and know exactly where you want to be. So I always recommend look early so that you feel better about making the decisions when the actual home you want to buy comes on. And you might miss some in the process because you're not quite ready,
Right.
but it's all just part of educating yourself.
Absolutely. I have a family that's moving here from New York, and they came to look at some rentals just
Right.
even to get an idea of the neighborhoods. I mean, they were familiar, but it's different to
Absolutely.
come and visit than to come and live. And so they are coming back because they need to be in a rental by June. And again, our rental market is
Okay.
very slim, especially for what they're looking for. And so they had to kind of pivot
Yep.
on specifics as far as what they're looking for. And then they'll eventually buy. And where they're going to live for a year may not be where they buy, just based on availability and what they're looking for as far as where their kids are
Yep.
going to go to
Yep.
school and whatnot. So it makes a huge difference to get to know a new neighborhood, a new area, a new city,
Absolutely.
town,
Yeah, that's exactly
community.
what these folks are kind of going through in their minds. Like, but they're open-minded, which is great. I love an open-minded client because if you're, pigeonholing yourself into this tiny little neighborhood that, things don't often come on in, then, that just leads to disappointment. So the more open-minded people can be when they're renting, it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be perfect. She expressed like we're coming from something very nice in the city and we're very comfortable and we like a modern home and environment. But we know beggars can't be choosers, and um, they'll make
Right.
more of a permanent, well-informed decision once they're out here. So I like it.
Right.
I
It's fun.
love the
Yeah,
education
that's
part of it.
good.
So it's fun when they have that aha
Right.
moment, and it's different for everyone. I could show another client the same exact homes and they're going to go in a different direction. But that's the beauty of the business, and working with different people all the time is exciting as you get to know them.
Right. Oh, absolutely. That's what it's so true. I mean, I work with a lot of international people, and so just getting them familiar with the different parts of the city, or if they're deciding between the city or the suburbs and they're only going to be here for a short amount of time, explaining the benefits, not necessarily convincing them one or the other, but just explaining the benefits, like what one has over the other, and just helping them acclimate and figure out what's going to be best for them and their family. It's really interesting how they decide one over the other just based on me showing them around and getting them familiar with the different areas in such a short amount of time.
It's a great job for that reason, because you just you get to like use your knowledge, but you're sort of just imparting it, but not forming opinions for them. You know,
Right.
that's kind of what they need to do. So being resourceful, I think, is huge.
Yep.
What is new in your life? What's going on? What's going on this weekend? Are you busy with clients? Are things quiet over the holiday weekend?
I mean, there's been a few new listings that have popped up. I've seen a few people asking for help with open houses, but I don't know how much will happen. I mean, I know in the city it is spring break, so I don't know how much is really going on because it's Easter,
Right.
spring break. So it is, I think it's going to be pretty quiet. I did try to make an appointment for Saturday, but for a new listing like in the suburbs, but the agent said only Mondays and Wednesdays. So I don't, and it requires 48 hours notice. So I don't know why they would put it on today, but I don't ask questions.
Well,
I just say,
try to get
okay.
back. Are you seeing a lot? Do you guys use a lot of the like coming soon piece in Chicago area?
So we have what's called private listing network. So not only can we do coming soon, we can put things on the MLS under private listings. So it's not necessarily, so anyone can, so other agents can send it to clients that are on the MLS. And but it's not like on all of the different sites like Zillow and all of Redfin and all of those. So, but if your agent sets you up on a search to receive those private
How is that
listings.
different than a coming soon?
So
because it's already listed, you can show it. It's just
because, well, and a seller can decide if they want it shown or not. So, or even to be sent or not, but like you as an agent can see my private listing whether or not you work for Compass, for example. So it's a good way to promote listings that maybe, like I had a few listings that still needed to be decluttered, painted, and all of that. I didn't have pictures, and I was able to get them under contract before they even, were painted, staged, any of that. And got them
I guess
sold.
that's the good advice that we're able to offer clients, that there are seller clients, that there are so many options and ways to get your house on the market. And, I don't know, like you're basically saying like the house wasn't perfect yet, but you were able to get it on this private exclusive system. And we can list, we don't have that as part of our MLS, but we can do exclusives within our office. So it's not marketed to all of the agents. So you can sort of quietly get the word out about your home. And then if you're ready and you don't get the offer that you're looking for, then you would put it on in its entirety on the MLS.
Right. So we're still able to still like promote it as long as it's on the private listing because it's on the MLS. Yeah. So there's a little bit of a difference between just doing like more of a pocket listing within the, within the Compass system. So it does broaden, and I've actually helped my clients find listings that were on the private listing network. So
that's great.
Yeah. So
are your clients,
are
you finding that even your clients are just other listings? Are the houses in tip-top shape? Are people getting them like to perfection, or because the market's so hot, they're not necessarily needing to do all those things that we used to advise people to do?
I think it depends on the neighborhood, and I think it depends on the seller. I mean, I think it also depends on the listing agent. I think we know how to advise our sellers, our clients, but not all agents are
Mm-hmm.
as detail oriented as some of us. And I remember walking into one, and this was last spring, walking into one listing with the buyer's dad. And he was like, there
Oh,
are cobwebs. And look at how dirty this is. And like just criticizing everything about the listing. And he couldn't believe just that it was being shown the way it was shown. And and I just commented to him. I said, well, if I were the listing agent, I would have made sure it was professionally cleaned, and I would have walked through with the sellers and said all of these
right.
things needed to be taken care of. You know, like we tell people to depersonalize. Like I walked into a house yesterday and I understand people have kids and there were so many family photos and like things with the kids' names on it and just all of these things that you don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily want to have when you have
Yeah.
people
And
coming
it's
through
just
your
easier
home.
for people to visualize their own things when it's not overly cluttered with other people's belongings and personal effects.
Correct. Yes,
Yeah.
it makes such a huge difference. So, I mean, and I'm not critical of another agent and the way that they do their business. That's not what I'm trying to do to say. It's just how I
Right.
would
Because
advise my
ultimately we know
clients.
they're going
Because,
to yield a better result if their house shows better. So it can be
correct,
the greatest house in the world, but if it's,
correct,
cluttered
exactly,
and unkempt, then, it's a little bit harder for buyers to envision them and their family or whomever in the home.
correct, exactly. So, and what about you in your market? Are you seeing homes that are,
Definitely.
staged appropriately
Yeah,
and moving?
I think people are staging again. Um, but again, it depends on, what you walk into when you go to do a listing presentation, what you see and, the advice we offer. I mean, some houses, are shown darker, or they have heavier pieces of furniture and, removing one piece of furniture from a room can make all the difference. Um, and,
Correct,
particularly in photography, the camera is like drawn to the heaviest thing in the room. So, and then, when your wide audience is looking at it online, it's, oh, all they see is that heavy table in the center of the room. And it makes the room feel smaller, again, then when someone walks in the door and that table and heavy furniture is cluttering the space, it just feels small. So that could be a turnoff when it actually could be a perfectly well-sized room, and the coat of white paint would show, the ceilings don't feel as low as they do when they're painted dark brown or, and have heavy furniture. So
right,
generally speaking, people know that they have to get their house looking its best in order to get the right price that they're looking for. And generally they're all looking for a higher price. Um,
right. And the amount you spend on staging yields a lot. It's like just even
yeah,
putting a
it
coat of paint
absolutely
on a
does.
wall.
And actually the home that we bid on, there were some very old parts of the house, but the walls had all been painted white. So even though the ceilings weren't super high, it showed like it was bigger and brighter, and the spaces were larger than they may have been. I don't know. It felt perfectly fine and acceptable to me. Um, but I can imagine if the house
Mm-hmm.
was empty, so it was a little bit easier to get that feeling. And the room was the room. Um, but
Right.
it certainly helped. And I would imagine the original paint colors were darker and maybe not as appealing to the masses. But it really, it showed well. It was clean and easy to envision my family living there. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think generally people staging, I'm not going to say staging's cheap, but like to your point, is sometimes the number's shocking, but it generally yields, a positive result and they end up making money.
Right, and there's ways to, you don't necessarily have to go and stage the entire house. There's certain rooms, right? If staging is too much, there's ways to pick and
Hmm.
choose which rooms need to be
Absolutely.
staged.
And honestly, like, it's
So,
pretty dreary. The grass doesn't look great right now as I look outside, but like exterior becomes important this time of year. Um, just,
hmm
doing a nice spring cleanup and getting their furniture out and utilizing the outdoor space
right,
because in our more suburban areas, people are looking, how do you use your outdoor space? Um, and can we fit all
right,
the, sporting equipment and the trampoline and, all of that. So,
right, right. And is there a
right,
lake in your
right.
backyard because of all the rain? At least here, at
Yeah,
least here, that's one of the bigger
people
issues that we've
shower, but
run
it's a good
into.
time to assess,
Yeah,
a home's ability to bear water or not. Like we definitely have
right,
some areas that
exactly.
do get wet, and it's a good test. Just because it's a generally wet area doesn't mean the home is going to get wet. So,
Right. I love, with all the rain, I love looking at houses to see if
right.
they get water in the basement or if there have been any leaks in the ceiling, if the roof is still in good shape. I mean, so it's a good opportunity to see how
Absolutely.
homes hold up in this weather. So it's not such a bad
Yeah.
thing to
I
look at
mean, I've
homes
had
in the
clients that
rain.
I advise, like, oh, there was a big storm yesterday and they're considering a property that has like a little stream in the back. And, like, I'll let the agent know, but go walk the property. See what it looks like after a storm and
Hmm
see if there's anything that scares you off. I mean, of course,
Yep.
I'm willing to go with clients as well. Sometimes if that happens to be the deal breaker that
Yep.
they can't quite get their arms around, it's helpful to go see it after a storm.
No,
Because it
definitely.
sounds scary on paper,
Definitely.
that it's in a wetland review area, doesn't mean that the property floods. It's just, again, another piece of education that scares clients away, but sometimes it's meaningless.
And sometimes, like where I grew up, my my we got water in the basement once. My mom's been in the house for 50 years. And I was going there one day when we had a ton of rain, um, in a very short amount of time, and all the streets were flooded around my mom's house,
Oh,
like
wow.
for me to get to the house. I had to go like a half
Oh,
a
my God.
mile around to get to her house. But there was no water, like she lives on a cul-de-sac. So the immediate streets around her house, there was no water. But it's just so interesting that it hasn't happened in a long time, but there was just so much rain in such a short amount of time. There was no water in her basement. There
Hmm.
was no water in the streets around the house. But so it's just really interesting the way that things, I mean, the
Yeah.
sewers can't handle all the rain, and
Yeah,
that is impacting things
absolutely.
too.
And you have like the lakes and we have
So,
the coastline here. So often water table is
mm-hmm,
higher than we'd like it to be. And then a one big storm can kind of tip things over. So it's
exactly.
while I don't mean to minimize that, like when it rains, it doesn't always mean a bad thing. Sometimes it does, and you need to uncover that for your clients.
It, yep, exactly. So, yep. Well, I have
Yeah,
kept you a really long
so nice
time.
chatting.
That wasn't my intention, but yes, I think this was very educational. We learned a lot about just some of the frustrations about the market from someone who's
Yeah.
actually is going
Yeah,
through
it
it
can be
right
frustrating,
now.
but see, I'm still smiling. It'll be okay. We'll find, the next great home and make it ours. So the beat goes on.
Of course. No, and that's the
Sure.
one positive thing, right? For all the buyers out there that, while you may think you found your perfect home and you don't win it,
Yes.
there's always the next one.
Yeah.
Everyone finds the right
But I
place
just
for
want to tell
them.
people too that Stacy's an awesome agent in the Chicago metro area and the suburbs surrounding the city. And I hope if you all are ever looking for a home in that area, that I have the opportunity to refer you to her because she'll take great care of you.
Thank you. As well as Ellen being an awesome realtor out in the Darien,
Yep.
Stamford, Connecticut area.
Fantastic. All right.
So
So nice to see you.
awesome.
Sounds
You too,
good. Thanks,
and we'll
Stacy. Bye bye.
talk soon.